بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي. اللهم ربنا زدنا علما وعملا وإخلاصا يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر أولياءك في غزة وفي الضفة وفي فلسطين كلها وفي مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. اللهم فرج عن عبادك اللهم فرج عن عبادك في غزة في الضفة وفي فلسطين كلها اللهم فرج عنا وعن عبادك في غزة وفي الضفة وفي فلسطين كلها وفي مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. اللهم نفس كربنا وكرب وثبت أقدامنا وأقدامنا والطف بنا وبهم يا رب العالمين يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين. Okay, so we are going to start from here today. What the concept of matter has received. What the concept of matter has received the greatest blow from the hand of Einstein. And basically, Iqbal so far has claimed three things. Physics, physics is based on, in Science in Journal, is based on experience, observation, and evidence of senses. But the metaphysics and epistemology, which lies, so this is the first point and this is the second, which lies behind the classical physics, actually negates the first point. Why? Because the theory of matter on which it relies, its epistemology, which lies behind the theory of matter, presupposes a notion of experience which reduces human experience to something which it is not, which is abstracts. And not only that, but it creates a gulf between human subject and object, thus denying human subject access to reality. And if we have lost access to reality, then what are we observing and which evidence we are relying on? So that's the basic thing, basic problem. And this happens because the theory which classical physics, according to Iqbal, relies on a notion of imperceptible object. Now I'm not sure. I actually stopped recording at some point, so I don't know what we have missed. Anyway, so far what I have said is For Allama Iqbal, the theory physics is based on observation and sense experience, but its justificatory theory of matter and epistemology itself is based on the notion of imperceptible entities which are unverifiable by experience, which cause impressions in the mind of the subject, but we can't verify that these impressions are coming from objects because we don't have any direct access to object, which creates a gulf between the object and subject. And this gulf creates a situation in which, according to Whitehead, one side is a dream because my impressions, I can't tell where they are coming from. I mean, I'm claiming that they are coming from object, but since I don't have any sense experience of the object as such, I can't verify that. So that's like a dream. And the object itself, the matter or the events, they are conjecture because I'm just assuming that there's an object which is causing that impression. So basically, the theory which was built, which was built in order to justify the empirical nature of physics, does the exact opposite according to Allama Iqbal. It actually undermines the empirical and verificationary and observable and experimental nature of physics. So we need a new theory and new justification. We need a new, more realistic description of how we experience the world. And for that, Allama Iqbal has offered us so far a glimpse of it anyway, a version of Hegelian phenomenology. It will be, he hasn't named Hegel yet, I mean in this chapter anyway, but there are indication that it would be a Hegelian phenomenology, as you will see. And basically this assumes that we experience phenomena, the object. So I experience chair, not the impressions coming from unknowable objects. And the other thing he will do is that my access to chair is direct in a sense. So the world is open to me. These are not the impressions. And in order to overcome the gulf, so it's between mind and matter, not to create a new gulf, I think he would need to, that's a Hegelian move, to need to claim or prove that there's no fundamental distinction between matter and mind. There's no dichotomy between matter and mind, because we create a Cartesian gulf fundamentally because we thought that matter is, that's what Descartes thought, that matter is totally different from mind. the mind is thinking, substance, and matter is extension. So there's no extension here, there's no thinking here. So then the question becomes, how do they meet? How do they interact with each other? And that's a huge problem for Cartesian epistemology. And Kant tried to overcome this this gulf through his transcendental idealism. But that transcendental idealism, according to Hegel, uh, didn't really overcome that gulf. It basically uh, they moved one step further, like created another gulf in order to overcome one gulf, which was the gulf between the subject as phenomena and the subject as its existence itself. Uh, and so the Hegel's move is to basically deny that matter and mind as two different things. They are basically self-expression of the same substance, which is realizing itself through history. And Iqbal accepts a version of it. And he sees in physics, especially in its move towards quantum physics, and Einstein's relativity as well, an indication that matter, that conception of matter as a solid, unknowable, imperceptible entity, which is totally different from mind, is melting away, and we are getting nearer to a conception of matter, for example, matter and its conversion to energy, and the collapse of, according to Iqbal, strict conception of cause and effect, and all those things are indication that maybe Hegel's point that matter and mind are not two different substance, but self-expressions of one ultimate subject, might be true. So that might overcome the gulf between. So when I see a phenomena, obviously my mind is in work there too, but I see phenomena directly and don't create a further gulf, because I know that my categories of my mind, the objects are in a sense made of the same stuff, or they don't have any dichotomous nature. So that's where he is going to go. Okay, so that's the context or summation of what we have done so far in these last few sessions. So let's see if we want to read a bit more and then try to relate it to what we said here, or just stop. Well, let's see. Let's go back to the text. That's why he is so thrilled by this, but the concept of matter has received the greatest blow from the hand of Einstein, another eminent physicist. I don't know which other physicist he mentioned. I think, did he say that Whitehead was a physicist? I'm not sure. But if he did, Whitehead is not a physicist. And then he quotes Russell, who is not a physicist either. Anyway, whose discoveries have laid the foundation of a far-reaching revolution in the entire domain of human thought. Mr. Russell says, I think that might be from Russell's relativity book, little book on relativity, I think. Let's see what the editor says. So the editor is saying, because in the original book, he just quotes without giving a reference. The editor says that it is from the basic writings of Bertrand Russell, but basic writings is a collection of writings. So most probably it is from his little book on will be there. Little book on relativity. Okay, the theory of relativity by merging time into space. Time has damaged the traditional notion of substance. How? And substance here is obviously the notion of object and subject is distinct from each other, and also substance as unverifiable or unknowable entity as it is in Locke, for example. Then all the arguments of the philosophers. Why matter or common sense is something which persists in time and moves in space. That is sort of Newton's absolute space. But for modern relativity physics, this view is no longer tenable. A piece of matter has become not a persistent thing with varying state, but a system of interrelated events. What that has to do with relativity? The old solidity, so the solidity of matter is gone, and so probably, I mean, this would be Iqbal's take, because matter was solid. It was somehow considered distinct or totally different from mind, but now it has lost its solidity. So its co co origin with mind probably will be easy to understand, or something like that. So this old solidity is gone, and with it the characteristic that no materialist made. To the materialist made matter seem more real than fleeting thoughts. So the old solidity is gone, and with it the characteristic that to the materialist made matter seem more real than fleeting thought, more real than. But this is Russell's interpretation. He's not a physicist. I mean, he's a sort of mathematician, logician, but not a physicist. And this is a more popular interpretation of physics. But anyway, that's Iqbal's. It actually illustrates what Iqbal is thinking, which I just, that by this, if the matter has lost its solidity, then its dichotomy with mind is easier to overcome. An Hegelian view, if it doesn't directly lead to Hegelian view, at least it paves the way for it. Which is sort of understandable as compared with reference to Einstein, because Einstein was a philosophically Spinozist, and Hegel is a Spinozist as well, or albeit a more dynamic one. And also, Einstein is Machian as well, so yeah, his empiricism is close to Iqbal's version of it as well. Anyway, we'll come back to that. So according to Whitehead, therefore, nature is not as so let's stop here and we'll continue from here, inshallah. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika. نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. وصلى وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين.